It's time for Liberty Today. Hold on to your checkbook. Heidelberger is back to talk about government spending. We'll hear from the president of Citizens for Liberty on a Tea Party spinoff, and we'll hear from a man who puts the steak in homesteak. All this and more on today's Liberty Today.
The words that come to mind is "'tis the season to be jolly," but it's not exactly Christmas yet. My friend George Ferebee and many of us really felt like it was Christmas during some of these recent primary elections. George Ferebee won a hard-fought and well-earned seat on the Pennington County Board of Commissioners. And George, I saw you the night of the election returns, and you were spent. You'd invested yourself physically in this thing.
That's absolutely correct. And as I pointed out that night of the election, when the returns came in, this wasn't a victory for me. It was a victory for we the people and for the Founding Fathers. There's no doubt in my mind that the Founding Fathers intended for us to live our own lives the way we wanted to without a lot of government interference. And that's precisely my message on the campaign trail.
Well, and it's not just George's message on the campaign trail, but you live it and breathe it. George, I don't know of too many people who have been more dedicated or who have been more diligent to promote the concept of limited responsible government.
Absolutely, and if I may, Gordon, a little passage from John Locke, the English philosopher, who I believe the Founding Fathers relied on heavily when they wrote the Constitution. Real quickly, persons have a right or liberty to, number one, follow their own will in all things that the law has not prohibited, and number two, not to be subject to the inconstant, uncertain, unknown, and arbitrary wills of others. That's, in a nutshell, why I ran for this office.
Well, George, I think that it's an interesting time we live in because people who would suggest that the Constitution is something that we need to live by, that we need to run our government by, are maligned as radicals, right-wing lunatics. And you've been unfairly accused of those kinds of things. And I'm interested in your perspective. Do you view yourself as a radical because you support the Constitution?
Well, obviously, I'm not the first to take that label, so to speak, believing in the Constitution. There's a lot of others that have gone before me. But I consider it personally an honor when the opposition, quote unquote, the only thing that they can do is smear me or denigrate me, then that tells me I'm right on track.
Well, and you know, in this particular race, your opposition was plastering pictures of Ronald Reagan all over the place, and Ronald Reagan was a man who believed in the Constitution.
Absolutely, and for those of you that don't know, Reagan was my hero. I was fortunate to be stationed as a young lieutenant in California when he became governor of the first. And I thought, yeah, right. What a joke as an actor. But 6 months later, I was a disciple of Ronald Reagan. And I'm sure he was along the way. He and Goldwater were called radicals for believing in the Constitution as written.
You know, Gandhi said something, and other people have said it in different ways, but what Gandhi said is, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And you've seen every part of that, haven't you?
Well, I guess I'd have to agree with that, yes. But I tell the Citizens for Liberty groups and any other groups I talk to, it's an honor when all they can do is smear me, denigrate me. That's a badge of honor.
Well, I go back to the days, I wasn't there, but during the election and the political history of Abraham Lincoln, he was openly ridiculed as being ugly, and I mean, that's a very kind way to say what they said about him. So smear politics and character assassination isn't new, but it's the only ammunition some of these folks have.
Absolutely, and Clinton perfected, not only during election, but in his term, it's, first deny, then deflect, and then denigrate. That was the 3 Ds for Clinton. And the opposition is, well, I think anybody that pays attention to what's going on locally knows that I've been denigrated a bunch.
It reminds me of some of these characters like Saddam Hussein and others whose philosophy it was to cheat, retreat, and repeat.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the way they do it today. George Ferebee is going to be a representative of the people and the Constitution and those principles that are found therein. And so be praying for George as he takes this seat on the county commission.